right, so, well, hello everybody, and welcome to this Arya Samaj Women's Forum event, which is an online digital career fair. We just want to thank you all for making the time to join us today. And we are just going to get started as soon as the host logs on. So are you all my speakers on? Are you all okay? Is there anything you require? No, yes. All good?
Okay, yes.
All right, thank you. All right, Deepika, are you here? Okay, Shruti, can you?
I don't think Deepika's on the call, so I'll just take over.
Okay, thank you, Shruti.
Not a problem. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this online career fair brought to you by the Arya Samaj Women's Forum. My name is Shruti Dowlath. I'm an executive member of the Arya Samaj Women's Forum. Today, we have a really exciting lineup of young women who are here to share the reasons why they've embarked on their chosen careers and to speak to us about their experiences in their field. They represent women who work in a range of sectors, including finance, engineering, media, medicine, law, education, architecture, and health sciences. Today, we're highlighting these career options because previously they were not obvious choices for women. We hope that you will be inspired by these women and their experiences as you plan your career path. On behalf of the Arya Samaj Women's Forum and our chairperson, Dr. Sarila Ramklas, I extend a warm welcome to our presenters and to you, our audience. As they take us through their presentations today, you may write your questions in the chat box, and that will be monitored by Varsha Bogle. Our first group of women may seem to come from different fields. However, their work is interlinked. Today, I'm going to start off by asking Suman Duki to speak to us. Suman is an occupational therapist at Healing Hills.
Hi, Shruti. How are you? Hello, everybody.
You can go ahead and blow us away with your presentation.
Okay, I hope you don't mind. I have my video switched off. The signal isn't so great where I'm at, but just let me know if you guys have any trouble hearing me or if you need me to repeat anything. Okay.
Not a problem.
Okay, so hi everyone. I am an occupational therapist. So basically, occupational therapy is a branch of medicine that specializes in the holistic rehabilitation needs of people who have people who require them, basically. So people who have sustained life-changing events, whether it's a child with special needs like autism or CP or Down syndrome, ADHD, whether it's an elderly person who suffered a stroke or an adolescent who has anxiety, depression, or even substance abuse. This is a very dynamic profession with many avenues of practice. So I'm going to briefly outline the 5 main areas of OT and the kind of intervention that we do. So in occupational therapy, even with the degree itself, you are exposed to the various areas, and then you always have the option to change here and there. So basically, you'll never get bored. In pediatrics, like I said before, we treat special needs kids with learning difficulties, with developmental delay. In physical, we do musculoskeletal rehabilitation. So working with burns, working with strokes, amputees, working in that field with traumatic brain injuries and the likes. We also work in mental health, where I am primarily at the moment. So this is working with people who suffer from depression, stress, anxiety, substance abuse, bipolar and other mood-related disorders, personality disorders. We work with the geriatric population, so elderly people who suffer from dementia, Alzheimer's. Lots of OTs are employed even in caring for the aged population. And lastly, we have the medical legal field. So we are also involved in the boarding applications for various professionals, if you've been injured at work and you now need to be compensated for the loss of function. Okay. To do this degree, it is offered at UKZN Westville. The admission points to get into health science at the moment is, I think, 25. But to get into occupational therapy, you will need between 30 and above. Okay. The subjects that you have to have are maths core. You can do either physics or bio. You don't have to have both. And if you do any creative subjects, or if you have, any kind of talents or things that you're interested in that way, those are considered a bonus. Okay. Does anybody have any questions for me?
Thanks, Suman. If anybody has questions, don't forget you can put it in the chat box and then we can group it all together and direct it to our speakers. But thank you so much, Suman. I just want to check quickly if Deepika is on our call.
Sure.
Okay, she
Deepika?
doesn't seem
Yeah,
to
she's
be
on.
here.
She's on.
Okay, it's not a problem. We can move to our next speaker, Vaishnavi Naidu.
No, sorry, Shruti, 1 second, just before we move on. Maybe Suman can tell us what her experience of the program was actually at university. How easy or difficult is it to take on this program of occupational therapy at university, Suman?
Thank you so much. That's a very good question. Honestly, this degree is a lot of hard work. The degree is 4 years in total, and then you do 1 year of compulsory community service. This degree is a lot of hard work because in your first 2 years, you basically are exposed to the full musculoskeletal aspect of the human body. So you understanding the anatomy, the innervation of muscles in that sense. It is a little bit difficult, but it's very interesting. As you get more into the fieldwork aspect, it does become a little bit easier. If you are interested in this degree or in any other health science pursuit, I will definitely say you need to be prepared to not have a lot of free time. When I enrolled in this degree, I didn't have a lot of free time. Most of my time was spent in the library, if I had any at the time, which wasn't a lot to come by.
Okay, thank you for that comment. And what subjects do you need to actually get into occupational therapy?
So you need maths core. You can do either physics or bio, and those are the two compulsory ones. So maths core definitely, and either physics or bio. Those are the compulsory ones. The rest it's fine. And like I said before, admission points is 30 points plus. Okay. But if you are really, really interested in this profession, I would definitely recommend shadowing an occupational therapist. So going in and actually seeing what it is that they do and understanding a little bit more about it can really go a long way before making this commitment and this choice. There are also other options if you are wanting to study and get into OT and perhaps you didn't get in, or maybe you're worried that your admission point score is not enough. There are other options. You can always transfer from like a BSc into this profession. They let you do like a mid-semester transfer if anyone is interested in pursuing that route.
Okay, and can I ask just one last question, Suman? Why would you recommend this profession? Why should girls or young ladies, or as Varsha would remind me, why should young ladies actually pursue occupational therapy?
Thank you for that. You know what? As young women, we have so much to offer. There's so much more to us than meets the eye. We are creative, we are energetic. We showcase parts of ourselves that we sometimes hide from the rest of the world. And this profession has really allowed me in particular to showcase those parts of myself. Personally, I am someone who has a lot of hobbies, who has a lot of interests. And in, in treatment with my patients, because you are treating the individual as an individual, as a whole, not as just parts of the program, you really get to understand your patient in a special way. You are able to help them in a way that's different from being a doctor or being a physiotherapist or a speech therapist or a psychologist. And because it's so dynamic, you will never be bored. There's so much to do, there's so much to explore. And I think that's something that's unique to occupational therapy and us women as well. We like to keep ourselves busy. We like to explore in the sense where our skill set is always growing, it's always evolving, we are always changing.
Thanks, Suman. That was beautiful. Thank you very much. I was just, I'm also, I know that occupational therapists work very closely with children with learning disabilities. And so we have a teacher on our call today, and maybe she can tell us a little bit about how the occupational therapist links with students who have learning disabilities in her class later on. But thank you very much for joining us today, Suman, and all the very best as you forge ahead in this career path.
Thank you so much. Take care, guys.
Thanks,
Okay.
Suman. Next, we're going to have Vaishnavi tell us about what she's doing. So she's a pharmacist at the moment, and she's also studying to become a doctor. So let's hear from her.
Hi everyone, I'm gonna stop my video. Just tell me if there's any signal problems and you can't hear me anymore, then I'll just put my video off and then the voice will kind of stream. Can everybody hear me though?
Yes,
All good
on my side.
Thank you for having me, first of all. It's so exciting to be here. Yeah, so I studied pharmacy at Westfield campus as well, the same as Suman. So it's a 4-year degree as well with honors, and you do a research project in your honors. Then there's 1 year of internship, 1 year of community service, and then you basically look for a job after that. It's a very exciting field. There's a nice kind of balance between science and the people aspect of it all. So a nice balance of the research, the scientific aspect, and then interacting with people all the time. And as a pharmacist, pharmacy, if you work in an institutional setting, so in a hospital, the pharmacy is basically a patient's last stop. So by the time a patient gets there, they're quite tired and exhausted. They just want to go home. So sometimes it's quite challenging to kind of, counsel them properly and do your job to the best of your ability when they're not, you also want to be mindful of the fact that they've had a tough day, they want to go home. So I think that aspect, I know it's very generalized to say that, women would do that better than men or anything like that. So pharmacy is a field where there are quite a few women in it who are doing that very well. So I think if you are looking for a career field or a path where you want to be scientifically inclined, in addition to kind of showing that empathetic side, I think it would be a really good field to go into. And in addition to that, my mom always tells me, your job is not everything about you. You're not defined by your job. And pharmacy is something where you can do your job really well, go to work every day, and then also have that time on the side to kind of go down to experience other things in life, as compared to other fields where you're kind of engulfed whole into it. I don't know if that's making sense, but I think that's also a really cool aspect of pharmacy. While I was working as a pharmacist as well, I would do many things on the side. So I worked as a ghostwriter, I would tutor pharmacy students. So there are all these other things where you can explore and you can encourage other people and you can kind of inspire other people because you have the time to do so, in addition to kind of fulfilling your career path. And then as a pharmacist, it's not only in an institutional setting. You can go through research and development, like develop new medicines, develop new drugs, develop new policies, protocols, things like that. Then there's a manufacturing aspect where you can go into manufacturing of pharmaceuticals, which is everybody, kind of has this idea that pharmaceutical companies rule the world, and they do essentially because they bring in the largest amount of revenue in the world. So that's another exciting aspect that you can go into. Then there's pharmaceutical teaching, and there's so many really cool avenues that you can go down, and it's a very versatile field, I think. So yeah, I think that's about as much as I can say about it right now. Are there any questions? Did I speak too fast? I know I do speak too fast sometimes.
No, you didn't speak too fast. I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
would you encourage women to enter this field, or how is the field at the moment? Is it a very male dominated field?
No, it's
I just had to
yeah,
ask.
I don't think it's particularly male dominated. So you'll see in the government or in institutional setting, they're kind of trying to increase the number of males who are in pharmacies in that kind of setting, just because from a demographic point of view, you know how the demographics work. It's actually quite female dominated, to be honest. And I think it's a field that's running quite well as a female dominated field. I know it's a biased opinion, but yeah, it is quite female dominated.
That's very lovely to hear. Thank you so much. And you did not speak
No
fast. It
problem.
was so interesting to hear.
Oh, I'm glad.
Up next, we have Zakia. So we're going to branch out a little bit. Zakia is actually an architect. So it's going to be really exciting to hear from her next.
Hi guys, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm just trying to turn my video on. Ooh, how does this work? Oh, for some reason it's saying it cannot start the video. Oh,
That's okay. We have your voice, and that's very important to us today.
damn. Okay, I really wanted to look at you guys. Okay, so I'm just gonna start with why I chose architecture. So I've always been inspired by spaces and how they make you feel, from traveling, going overseas, looking at buildings. Every city is different. Every configuration of every city is different. And I think as a student, you don't really notice all those things, but as you study architecture, you learn to look at the detail of like literally everything around us, how buildings are formed, how streets are made. Everything about our built environment is designed by architects. Even ordinary day-to-day living, design has always been my strong point throughout my life, and I felt as if this was the direction I should go. It's exciting. It's definitely not a sit behind the computer all day sort of job, even though there is a lot of hours to be put into computer work because everything is done online nowadays, all the drawings, all the submissions, 3D work, but you're basically always on the move. It's a very dynamic profession. Also a lot of liaising with structural engineers, quantity surveyors, interior designers, and like there's a whole long list of it. So communication skills are very important in this field, as well as teamwork, because you're never really designing alone. You have a whole lot of people in studio all the time. It can go up to like 20 people per project. So teamwork and getting along with others is very crucial in this profession. I'm just going to talk about what the architect does. Architecture gives you the freedom to be creative. Every building is different. Every project is different. Basically, it's art and science together, designing places where people can live, eat, work, and play. There are many facets of an architecture's role, from creating functional spaces, conceptual drawings, to full realization of their project. So basically, from a hand sketch drawing to an entire building put up is what you'd have to go through in every single project that you're with. And you would have to monitor that as an architect. If anybody has problems with the drawing or they're confused on site or whatever, they call the architect to come in and check again. So you have to be very present. It takes a lot of your time, especially when you're studying. You're not necessarily going to have like the normal campus life you see like on TV or you see through social media. It's a lot of like sleeping in the studio, finishing at 3 a.m. So it's a lot of work to be put in. And I think if anybody else knows any students of architecture, you can count for this. Like you don't see us much during the weekends or weekdays because we're always working. But I think after all of that, it is worth it. And you get engaged in what you do. Like you have to get engaged in what you do. Otherwise, it's not going to work out. Like on a day-to-day basis, as an architect, what you do is like, you do sketch proposals for what the clients require, a lot of site visits and measuring, a lot of computer work on programs such as AutoCAD, ArchiCAD, Revit, Lumion. You need a very strong computer for this. You need to know like how to use a computer. Sketching and drawing and all of that only gets you so far, but to put everything onto computer is basically what the end results should be. Your technical drawings, I think, if like whilst you're in school, subjects that would help you in this profession are EGD, you need maths core, and then either geog or art. Art helps a lot because everything in architecture is art. So that helps with your drawing skills and also the way you think. And then obviously the EGD component for the technical part of it. But I think, and geog, because of your surroundings and the places you're with, and you need to know the typography, environmental architecture also plays a huge role in architecture. So I think those would be really good subjects to consider if you want to go this route. Yeah, any questions?
For me personally, what's been your favorite part of your journey? Because I know architecture is a lot of late nights.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, like what, and you guys done such
Um,
interesting things. So I'm just curious.
So my journey in campus or like now in the working world?
Yes. Or in both. Like what's been the most standout moment for you?
I think just like learning your own city. So like you don't necessarily know what's in every single like part of where you live. And as an architect, you need to like go to such areas and do extensive research about different areas. And then you'd like come to the realization like, oh, I didn't know this about where I live. Like for me, I didn't know a lot of places in Durban. And then like I'm exposed to a whole lot of places where I'd have to study now just to like relearn it. And I think that happens in every city that you would like be an architect in, whether you're studying in FITS or UCT or whatever, but like you just learn a lot about the environment and where you were, like where you are in. So that's been interesting, like, you know, being exposed to all these different places and all these different estates that are being put up and buildings. I think during the last few years, I think everyone has seen a progression in like the built environment with all these buildings just coming up, especially like in Umhlanga region or like further north. There's just been a lot of developments come up. And I think this is a time where architects are needed compared to, I would say, overseas where everything's already so well developed. Compared to here, you have the opportunity here to develop, whereas there, you're just basically enhancing the interior of already existing structures. So I think that's very interesting, like being an architect in South Africa, especially.
That is very interesting. Like your environment doesn't change, but suddenly your lenses do. So you
Yes.
notice so much more than you did before.
Yes.
I think Cara has a question. I think she has a hand up.
Hi, Shruti. Thank you so much. Zakia, I just wanted to ask, I know from a personal experience, I went to an all-girls high school. So I know one of the requirements are EGD to get into architecture. Is there any way that you can do like a bridging course, or do you know of anything that can kind of bridge that gap of EGD if it's not offered in your school currently?
So EGD for UKZN, I'm sure this is for everywhere, but I don't think that the EGD was a requirement for to get into architecture because I didn't even take EGD. I took art. So my first year was a little bit difficult with the technical process, but we do have different like modules in the like course where it teaches you what you need to know. And then obviously you'd have to like, if you lack a certain skill, you're gonna like go online, do research. There's a lot of courses for like basic drawings and stuff, but I think EGD is definitely not a requirement to get in. So what is a requirement is that every university requires a portfolio, and that portfolio is weighted more than your actual results because they look at your portfolio and they see like whether you're able to, you know, handle what's required of this course. So your creativity, your drawing skills, etc. So every university has a different requirement. So the acceptance of like university is based on your portfolio.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Mikara, for your question. And thank you, Zakia, for that. That was really interesting. So thank you so much. Yes, of course you can.
So Zakia, thank you very much for this presentation. It was really interesting. I don't think many of us actually know the inside world of architecture, of an architect actually. So I want to know, so what's your muse? How do you keep, what generates new ideas for you? How do you, how do you interact with your clients and give them like different angles of what would possibly work well?
So
taking
for
all
m-
factors into consideration.
So for me, everything inspires me, whether you see something like on the street, or you see like a new building come up and a certain element of that building, or like via social media, you see a lot of design principles, different design aspects. So like everything you see on a day-to-day basis inspires me. And a lot of the time the clients come with exactly what they want. So you'd have to work around what they want and just given your like professional advice in the design processes. So I think like as a professional architect, you would know more than what they would want. They just want something that looks pretty, you know, but you would know like why it should be like the way it should be. So why they can't have certain facade in a building, or the angle in which the building should be at for the sun to reflect, you know. So they don't know all of that, but we do. So I think in that sense, like everything inspires you and the way you think and the way you design on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, wow, that's amazing. Thanks, Zakia.
My
I wish we had
pleasure.
more time to talk to you actually, because it's really, this is fascinating, Shruti. Really
Yeah, it's
fascinating.
very interesting, especially for me being
Yeah.
so out of that field. It's so interesting.
No, really, I think for all of us mainly on this call. All right, so Zakia, thank you very much for your time. We
you.
take a short break just now for some questions. Does anyone any of the participants have questions for the presenters that have already spoken? So that would be our occupational therapist, the pharmacist, and the architect. Do you have any questions that you would like to pose at this point? Varsha, are there any in the chat?
There's no questions posed about what was discussed already, but there is a question. Maybe we can address it later.
Okay, great. You're welcome to raise your hand if you have a question.
Hi, Sarela. I'd like to ask a question if you can hear me.
Oh, welcome, Deepika. We're so happy
Thank you.
to have you on. You go
So,
ahead.
I have a question for Zakia. You know, you talk so passionately about architecture, and you talk about the links between your career and art. Do women bring a different spin to the development or the design of buildings? Can you actually see the difference?
Yes, I can. I think the first speaker, Samanj, mentioned how women are so energetic and bring a lot to the field. And I think as an architect, when you're designing, you design for not necessarily women, but you like mindful of everything that needs to be put into design to make an experience comfortable. So like it's very, very evident in the working field, the differences between the skills that men bring and women bring. Women are, I think, more softer, more feminine. They bring that femininity to their built environment, and you can see that and you can feel it. And I think personally, women are just more meticulous in every detail that they like do on a day-to-day basis. I think that's just how we're wired. And I think that's such a like core principle that needs to be enveloped in design. And you can really feel that. And I think a space becomes just more like better to exist in when you take these considerations.
Okay, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
So shall we move on to our next group of women?
Yeah, I think we can. Thank you again, Zakia. I know you have to leave
Pleasure.
us.
Yes.
But thank you very much for your time. Thanks very
Welcome.
much.
Thank you,
And
guys.
we must get together soon.
We shall. Hi, Satna.
Hey, Zakia. Well done. That was amazing.
Thanks.
So our next group of women have their degrees their primary degrees, but they work in other fields. And they say that the skills you learn in one course can be transplanted to another field. We have Sadhna Ramtas, who's a civil engineer, Sumaya Ibrahim, a surgeon, and Sejal Desai, who is a journalist now working in corporate communications. So Sadhna, you have a very interesting story to tell about studying civil engineering, but now working for a pharmaceutical company. How did that happen, and how different is it for you?
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Sadhna. I am a civil engineer by profession. I don't work at a pharmaceutical company now. I work at an FMCG, which is a fast-moving consumer goods company. I think for me, it was easy to make the transition because civil engineering, or engineers in general, we are problem solvers. So by definition, we apply scientific knowledge to improve infrastructure and common utilities that meet basic needs. But if you want to simplify that, we're problem solvers. And I think all industries need problem solvers. They need us to find solutions to different kinds of problems. It could be simple things like distribution of a product, or it could be more intense things like how we grow our top line whilst also growing our bottom line. At the end of the day, it's about problem solving and achieving those goals. And I think that the skills that we develop in engineering allows us to do that.
So why should women do what you do? Why should they study civil engineering?
So civil engineering and engineering, different aspects of engineering as well, are all still very male dominated.
Four shots. Yeah, four. Okay, can I have a glass to take out some of the ice, please? Thank you.
Sorry. So yes, engineering is still a very male dominated field, but there is a push from engineering societies, from universities, not just in South Africa, but around the world, for this industry to become more gender equal. So it's really a great time for girls to become interested in this career path. It's also civil engineering is also a very diverse career option because there's so many specialities within civil engineering, and then there's also the option to take your skills and move out of the civil engineering industry, which in the economic situation that we often find ourselves in these recent times, that is a big plus. The fact that you can study engineering, but you don't have to work in the engineering industry. It allows you to apply for more jobs, and it improves your chances of securing employment.
So by moving into a different field, you haven't lost your engineering skills?
No, of course not. Of course not. Remember, the way engineers are trained is to think differently, is to think out of the box. You don't lose that. You just bring it to the table in different forms when you work outside of the engineering industry.
So why did you study engineering and then go into a different field? Was that always your plan?
So it was something I was prepared to do, but I studied civil engineering because it was about the concept of being in a career that would improve people's lives and their standards of living. It was also about making people's lives easier. So as civil engineers, when you stay within the industry, you do this through many different projects. You can do this through structural developments. You can do this as water and fluids engineers by providing safe drinking water and sanitary facilities. You can do this as traffic engineers or transportation engineers, where you develop road infrastructure, you plan road networks in such a way that it facilitates better movement of goods, better movements of people, which then goes on to facilitate better trade within the country and outside of it as well. And it's also about, as civil engineers, it's about making people's lives easier. And the company that I work for now does that in the brands and the products we produce. It might not be exactly according to the definition of what civil engineering really is, but we do make people's lives easier. For example, I work for Procter & Gamble. One of our brands is Always sanitary pads. We serve millions and millions of girls around the world and make a very natural concept much easier and safer for them to deal with month in, month out. So just the concept of improving people's lives and improving their standards of living, that is really what motivated me to pursue civil engineering.
Wow, that's so inspirational. Does anyone else have questions for Sadhna? Right, so let's move on to our next presenter. Her name is Dr. Sumaya Ibrahim, and she started out as a medical doctor, as a surgeon, and then branched out into education, sharing the knowledge that she picked up over the years with others. Sumaya, why did you go into this field, and why are you now in education?
Thanks so much, Deepika, and thanks, Dr. Ramklas, for the opportunity to speak today and be inspired myself by all the different professionals who have addressed us thus far. So for myself, I think, doing medicine, you obviously have this deep desire to assist others and, help in whatever way you can. And I think I was very fortunate to have been inspired by a lot of my mentors as a medical student, like Professor Singh and Mr. Nelson Woodley in surgery, who really showed me what it was to be compassionate and dedicated to patients and service and, advancing science, improving quality of life for our patients. So I think that impressed upon me a lot as a young medical student. And then obviously to get into surgery, you have to do your internship and community service. And then in those years, again, you're exposed to, depending on what areas you wish to, I guess in internship, you definitely have to do certain specialties. But then in community service, you can choose other areas like, family medicine or other aspects of medicine, pediatrics, etc. It's a bit different now compared to when I graduated. Now, a lot of these major specializations you get exposed to as an intern and in your community service here. And then after that, I guess you have to think about further career progression in medicine. And I think coming from South Africa and KZN, the opportunities are fairly limited. So within that context of a resource-constrained country and the challenges by the health system and the needs of the Department of Health, then that shapes where you end up. So I did apply for surgery and I got in, and it's again a 4-year, very intense specialty training program. So I think a lot of people have mentioned, but obviously, you're dealing with patients and issues of life and death. So it's a lot more a different dimension to the intensity of the work. Many long hours, day to day. Obviously, you're seeing patients in the clinic, on your ward rounds, procedures, major theater. So that's the day to day. Also, with that, you have the academic program. So I did my specialist qualification through UKZN. So there's obviously your teaching program, which is quite structured, and then different exams that you have to navigate before you qualify. So those can also be quite intense. I can obviously go into more detail, but it just depends if people have questions around that. And then obviously, we had to navigate a research project as well. And that's where I came into contact with Dr. Ramklas, who was one of my supervisors. And my topic was very interesting, looking at HIV and surgical pathology. So remember, it was a time when HIV, we were very much in the throes of the pandemic. Antiretroviral therapy was not readily available for many of our patients. So there was a lot of suffering, death, disability. And, in surgery, we also saw effects of that. So things have improved considerably with advances in antiretroviral therapy. And we don't thankfully see a lot of those complications. But I think going down that path, learning about research methods really inspired me and allowed me to pursue further study at Columbia University in New York. So I think I'm very grateful for that opportunity. It helped me see a different side to medicine, where I could impact one patient. I'm now in a position through public health and health policy, being able to impact many other patients or more than one patient at a time. So yes, so that's where my path diverged from the normal route of subspecialization in surgery. So, and together with that, medical education, as you spoke about, Deepika, so being at the medical school and being able to use my skills that I gained in surgery to now train the next group of medical students and and hopefully inspire them and let them know that there are other options, once you finish with medicine. Thank you.
Any questions for Sumaya?
I have one. Please, may I ask, Deepika?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so Sumaya, thank you for that. That was really beautiful. Can you just tell us a little bit now about how your next bit of research is looking at improving teaching and learning on the online platform? Because I think that really has a relevance to where we are in the learning platform right now. Can you just share 2 minutes?
Thanks, Sarila. So I think, with the COVID-19 pandemic, like I mentioned HIV before in the early 2000s, I think it's had a similar kind of, disruption in healthcare and in medical education. So we've had to all take a step back and look at how we were approaching traditional clinical teaching. And we had to adapt during COVID-19, and a lot of us had to move fully online, which was something completely unheard of in clinical medicine. So I think beyond COVID-19 and navigating the space, how can we take the lessons from that time of pure online learning and use some of those principles and kind of make it better? Things like efficiency, ability to standardize teaching, having resources available. Having those resources available, usually you have a tutorial and you take notes and that's it, but here the resources are available online. So you can always go back and engage with it and get a deeper understanding. So I think those were some of the positives that we've seen thus far.
Thanks, Mia. Thanks very much.
You.
Lovely.
Thanks,
Okay,
Sumaya.
Deepika.
That was so inspiring. Thank you. So next we have Sejal Desai. Sejal is a journalist who's working in corporate communications, and journalism is one of the toughest careers that you can find, simply because you're expected to be an expert in absolutely anything and everything, whether it's law, medicine, or business. You have to understand things so that you can simplify it for your audience. So Sejal, please tell us why you decided to go into journalism and what it's really like out there.
Hi, Deepika. Hi, everybody. Yes, Deepika, as you say, it is very challenging, and you're dealing with a variety of different subjects, and that's also why it's so exciting. And so when I went on this path of wanting to do journalism, it was primarily because I had a passion for news, for language, for news writing, and for storytelling. And so, yeah, it was exciting for me, and it came very naturally to go down this path. And the position that I'm in now, though, as in my role as a media liaison officer, it's been something very different, that most people won't think of as a career. There's something that I fell into, and there are parts of it that I found I love quite a bit. So it's for my role in particular, I'm working at UKZN. So I have a passion for education and for news, and so I found it's a good thing in that it's combining those two things that I love quite a bit. It's very exciting, very dynamic, very specialized. What I love, especially about being a media officer for the university.
Get it. I think you don't ask. She wants to be one.
Sorry, yes. You can continue.
Yes, sorry. So yeah, with the university role, it's you could be a media officer, and it can be exciting no matter what organization you're working for, because you're taking very specialized information and you're sharing it with the public via the media. With the university, I see it as being this powerhouse of knowledge, and being that person who's facilitating that community, getting to play an essential role in sharing that knowledge with the public via the media. I find that very exciting, and I enjoy working with all of the different academics and all of the different disciplines. So, and it's also very challenging. So yes, that's exciting. And on a day-to-day basis, I'm working with different news editors and journalists from broadcast, your TV news, radio, print, and online. And it's also exciting to see what different things everyone is interested in, what news people want to hear about, and being able to bring the academic voice into that, to bring that knowledge in and to assist in getting that news out and to getting that informed opinion out. So yes, I find that exciting. So there are two there are many aspects to the job, but primarily it's the PR aspect, where you're writing press releases and you're pitching news to different editors. And then there's the crisis communications aspect, which your problem solving skills come into play. And there I feel women especially, very good with that. So your crisis communications, an example would be maybe if students are protesting, you'd come together with an executive team, and you would be able to, you'd need to manage and decide on how you're going to communicate with the media, with the public, and to do so very quickly and concisely, and to be able to craft a statement to communicate very clearly with the media, and to assure people in that situation concerns maybe about safety and security, and so the things like that. So that's primarily what I do on a day-to-day basis. There are other exciting things as well, where I find there's like a bigger picture. Sometimes you're working on a project, and there are community outreach aspects. For example, there was a project that I worked on where we had somebody in agricultural science who was working with local homestead farmers who were involved with making madumbis. And we invited reporters out to the farm in Umbumbulu and to meet with the farmers. And that publicity that got out there actually resulted in that exposure resulted in Woolworths watching that and then actually investing in those farmers and selling those madumbis in their stores. So yeah, there's a bigger picture, and communication can actually reach a lot of people, and it can make a big difference. So yeah, I think that's most of what I would say I do from a day-to-day basis, and yeah, why I find it exciting and interesting. What else can I tell you? For women especially, I feel women are sort of, I would say, very empathetic, and have a good capacity, I feel, for emotional intelligence, which I think is useful in a role which requires so much of human interaction, and service. So yeah.
Sejal, there was a question. How does one get into a journalism program?
Okay, so primarily you'd be good with English, your language skills. I know, yeah, your English scores would need to be quite good. Not sure about the other subjects, but primarily I know English is a subject you need to do well in. I had done a diploma in journalism at the Durban University of Technology, and I would advise learners to go on to do the BTech program so that it converts to a degree. Yeah, I know when I got into the program, they primarily looked at my English scores, because it's a lot of writing and language involved. So yeah.
Is there a difference between doing a journalism program at Technikon rather than a communications degree at university?
Sure, so that's a good question. I think they're both valuable. At the time that I'd done it, I'd chosen to go to tech as instead of university, because DUT was offering a very specialized journalism program, and I was so set in knowing that this is what I wanted to do. And when I researched it, I found that there were a lot of practical skills. That they have the equipment, whether it's your photography equipment, your video technology equipment, you get to work with, and so I found the practical part of the learning aspect more interesting to me, and something that drew me towards that. So yes, but at the same time, if you decide to go to university, you would do a general BA, and you would choose your subjects, and you would have a more broader, I think, broader range of subjects to choose from. And I feel they both have their strengths in different ways. And yeah, it was just that I had chosen a specialized course, but they're both strong. And with university especially, I think there would be a larger theory aspect to it.
Sorry, Deepika. Thank you, Sejal. Thank you very much for this. It's really been interesting. Again, another area that we know very little about, but we
any other questions?
All of your work. So, unfortunately, we're running out of time. Can we Deepika? Can we just move on to the next person?
Move on. Right.
Yes,
So the next person is very well known to most people, and that's our very own Shruti Dawla. She is a member of the Arya Samaj Women's Forum Executive. And Shruti was in finance, or she still is, but then branched into business. So Shruti, please tell us your journey.
Hi, everybody. My name is Shruti. I'm 23 years old. I studied my BCom Chartered Accounting at UCT, and I'm currently doing my honors in applied accounting, and then I go on to do my boards and qualify as a chartered accountant. But that is actually not the reason I'm here to speak today. So throughout the course of my undergrad degree, I've been involved in many side projects along the way. I've had opportunities to observe projects as well as actively pitch and begin my own startup. I pitched at UCT Shark Tank in 2020 and I ended up winning. But what I wanted to say was that when I pitched at Shark Tank, I had no knowledge about a startup, a pitch, investors. I was very foreign to this community, but I knew that it was a field that I wanted to be more involved in. And I searched through every corner of the internet and I taught myself how to pitch an idea to investors, how to draw up my own business plan and to pitch. And when I won, it felt like a very personal win because I self-taught myself these skills that I needed to pitch. Co-founding a tech startup has been a very unfamiliar road to me to navigate, especially as a student, but I'm here to tell you that it's not impossible. And what I'm really trying to say to everybody here today is that you should start where you are with what you have, and that the internet is so vast. There are so many things you can learn and help you to just take that leap of faith. You know, women are born natural leaders and we belong in every field. And in 2021, I think studies showed that 48% of startups are led by females. And this is a massive jump from 28% in 2019. So for anybody on the call today thinking about taking that jump and becoming an entrepreneur, this is your sign that you should do it. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thanks so much, Shruti. And I like what you said about start with what you have and where you are. So you don't necessarily need to wait till you qualified or you have a job or anything like that. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Right. So we're going. Hi.
No, I said I think we're good.
Right. Okay. So now we move on to someone who is so important. In fact, she's in the most important profession, the career that gives birth to all the others, and that is teaching. Adila Khan, please tell us a bit about your experiences in the education profession.
Hi, Deepika.
Hi, welcome.
It's wonderful to be here. Thank you for including me in this conversation. It's been amazing listening to these wonderful women. I know this video is meant for young people who are choosing what path they are going to be taking. I would like to say to them that if you're tuning into this video, just the fact that you are here, that you're listening, that you're trying to find information, it's a very positive sign. So give yourself credit for that, that you're already on your way to making the right choices because you are deliberating. Every single one of the wonderful women on this panel is not living one single choice they made when they were 18 years old. We are all living a series of choices that we made along the way, and we can pretend like all our choices were good choices, but we made the best choice at the time. So take some pressure off yourself. If you're a young person who's deciding what you need to be doing, just deliberate, make a choice and move forward as best you can. When I was your age, I left school with a pretty good matric pass. I knew I wanted to do something sciencey because, like Sumaya said, if you have passionate teachers, they really make an impression on you. And so I had a very passionate mathematics teachers, science teachers, IT teachers, and they really made an impression on me. I loved school. I loved university. I went into a Bachelor of Science in what was supposed to be biology, but by second year, I switched it to chemistry. And I loved everything about learning, being at university. I even loved lectures. I went for my lectures. It was very nice. But after university, sort of all of that went away and I wasn't finding my sweet spot, you know? I wasn't finding where I needed to be. And after a few like small jobs, I took a locum teaching position. It was a grade 3 class. And I remember feeling like, this is it. I've come home, you know? Teaching was for me. And in that grade 3 class, I am not a grade 3 teacher. I'm a high school teacher. And I learned one thing in that grade 3 class is I don't want to teach grade 3. Little kids are very difficult. And I also learned that I love teaching. You know, I loved watching other people learn. And so that was for me, and that's the part that I chose. So I want to talk about my educational part to teaching. and what options are available for young people. Okay, let me start with this. Being a teacher, you have sort of three customers, three clients. You have the child. The child is your customer, your client. You have your subject itself. Are you a maths teacher? Are you a physics teacher? You have your subject that is changing. Increasingly, as we move into the fourth industrial revolution, that has to change. We need to change the content that we are teaching. The child doesn't change, but the content changes. And the third sort of customer is the administration, my least favorite customer. The marking of the register, the telling, setting exams. It has to be done, but the first and the third is not changing. What is changing is the subjects that need to be taught as we move forward. And as the government is starting up new STEM-specific schools, I would advise someone who wants to go into science teaching to not take the education path, the B.Ed path, but to rather do a science degree and switch in. And after you have completed your science degree, specializing in IT, specializing in chemistry, then sort of add on a postgraduate certificate in education. In that way, when you are in the classroom, you have a better understanding of where you are taking your child to, especially at the grade 10, 11, and 12 level. You really, beyond the subject, you teach things to a child beyond the subject. So if you have gone through the courses yourself, then you are able to link it for the child in a much more meaningful way. Okay, so that's what I would recommend. In fact, I would recommend to the education department to go out there and find some BSc graduates and encourage them and incentivize that these are the science teachers and physics teachers of the future. Okay.
Adela, thank you so much. That was so inspiring. We often forget the important role that educators play in helping us to achieve our career goals. Any questions for Adela?
Yeah, so Deepika, I have to say before anybody else does, that is the best advice that we could take back to our School of Education, really. Because certainly, I think if you come into teaching and if you do not have a good science or maths foundation, you cannot teach the subject. So I think, thanks for that, Adila. You've really given us some food for thought. And I think between Sumaya and myself, we'll take it back to UKZN at least. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. So our next presenter is still on a high from last week when she won one of her cases. Her name is Tomika Archery, and she's a lawyer. Tomika, please tell us about your career path.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for that introduction. It's such an honor and pleasure to be here today. So yes, as Deepika mentioned, my name is Tomika. I am a candidate.
Sorry, Tomika. Can you turn on your video? Come, we want to see this hot lawyer.
Let me actually just move because I believe my signal is not very good. Just give me 1 second.
We can hear you perfectly if you're worried about that.
I was actually more concerned about the video, but I think if I move closer to the router, I'll be okay. Okay, let me just start my video. Hi, can you guys see me?
Yes, we can. Thank you, Tomika.
Okay, so yes, I'm a candidate attorney. I've started my articles this year, and I'm set to be admitted as an attorney next year. In terms of the law, it is a very dynamic, ever-evolving field to be in, but it is also one of the most exciting careers to be in, I would think, as well. In terms of studying, we can start there. So there's two main ways of obtaining your LLB degree, to obtain a degree in law. There is the straightforward route of doing your 4-year LLB degree, and then you'll do your 2 years articles, or you do 1-year articles and you do PLT, and then thereafter you will write your board exams and get admitted. The alternative route, which is the route that I've decided to take, or took actually, I should say, was to study an undergraduate degree. That there was a Bachelor of Arts in economics, And then thereafter, I did my postgrad degree of the LLB degree of 2 years, and now I serve articles and to be admitted next year. So with studying law, I think a lot of people definitely glamorize it when we watch things like Suits and How to Get Away with Murder, all those things, and think that it is a very glamorous career, but it's actually a very tough career as well. Yes, we have all the lovely suits and the fancy, objections in court, but we also have a lot of hard work behind the scenes. And I suggest to anyone who wants to study the law is that you have to be really passionate about it. I think that is with any degree, and especially with the law, there's a lot of reading. I remember my professors in university telling me that if you want this degree, you have to read for the degree. So it involves a lot of reading of newspapers, a lot of reading of cases, and it's very important to, with any degree, in fact, is to have passion. And when you have passion, you will not feel like your job is a job. You're going to feel like you're doing something that you love. So I think that's also very important. In terms of the particular subjects that are required, there's no definitive subjects that need to be taken, but English is obviously very important, communication and vocabulary, being able to speak well, as well as other subjects like history or business is also important because that helps you when you go into the working world as well. And I think one of the important things that we all here to talk about is women being in the law. And I think it is so important. We need more women in law, like times 1,000. I cannot express it anymore. The law is heavily saturated by male dominance, and we need more women to be in positions of power. I think if anyone's been following the news earlier this year, you would have seen that the Supreme Court of Appeal had actually appointed its first ever female Deputy Chief Justice, that is Mandisa Maya. And it's so incredible to see at a time like this where the law is evolving, the world is evolving, that more women are getting into higher positions. And that's what we need. We need women to be able to rewrite the law, to be able to voice their opinions about the law that's going to govern us. Because at the end of the day, we are living this. We are going to be living under those laws. And it's so important to break those gender barriers, to be able to break the glass ceiling as well. So putting people, or particularly women, in positions of power is absolutely so incredibly important, especially when we talk about our world now, where women's safety is such an issue, where women need to be, we need to step up and fight against the injustices that are done against women. So yeah, that's basically that part. In terms of motivation, what gets me motivated about the law, it stems from two things. One, I've always wanted to help other people. I've always wanted to solve people's issues, to make the world a better place, so to speak. Yes, it's one slow step at a time, but it's still there. And the other part of it comes from my personal fulfillment. That is to have, for me, the law is not just a profession. It's, in my opinion, it's a medium through which I can serve not only my nation, but people as well. So I think it's so important to have the law. It's so important to be in the law. And I pray more women get more active in the law. So yeah, are there any questions?
Thank you so much, Donica. Any questions? Now, I think you had a very comprehensive explanation. So thank you once again. I would like to know, or rather, I'd like to introduce you to our next speaker. She's someone who's reached the pinnacle of her career and just proves what we can achieve. Her name is Sandhya Silal, and she is the National Olympic Team's physiotherapist. Sandhya, please tell us your story.
Hi, my name is Sandhya Silal and I'm a sports physio from Cape Town. I'm really honored to be on this forum. I've listened to a few of the speakers and it's incredible to have such accomplished women try and inspire the next generation. So I hope I can do the same. So I wanted to chat a little bit about my profession, being a sports physio. As most of us know, physio is essentially the science of movement, and we focus on the restoration of function through rehabilitation. My practice is primarily focused on orthopedics and sports injuries. I always knew that I wanted to be in the medical profession, and after a week of lectures in anatomy and physiology, as well as kinesiology given by Sarita Ramplas, I knew that this was something I would enjoy. And then later on in my career, when we started interacting with patients, I realized that we can make a huge difference in quality of life, as well as improving function in all our interactions with patients. And I knew that I was on the right path. So my journey in sport happened quite by accident, as it does. And I've been in sport for 15 years now. I was inspired while assisting a colleague on tour. Sorry, my camera keeps falling. I'm actually on tour now, so I made a makeshift office setup. Yeah, and in sports physio, we assist athletes in the prevention of injuries. We assist them field side during injuries. We work with management of athletes, and just to be part of a team is fantastic because you get to be part of that result and having influence to player on the field or on the track, as it were. I love what I do. I love the adrenaline rush on the side of the field. I love the diagnostics, the biomechanics of figuring out the mechanics of injuries, as well as working out rehabilitation programs, and obviously seeing athletes succeed post-injury, which is obviously the most rewarding. I enjoy working with a multidisciplinary team, so I'm very fortunate to work with sports doctors, biokineticists, radiologists, other physios, and that's how we get to learn and inspire each other as well. Over the last 21 years, I've had the privilege of working with many SA athletes and international athletes along the way. I've been very fortunate, and some of my career highlights, oh dear, include having gone to the Olympic Games, having gone to the Paralympic Games. I've been to a few Commonwealth Games, and a few world champs along the way as well. I think, you know, now across most professions, we're seeing women fighting for equal pay, equal opportunity, and equal representation. And I'm very delighted and excited to be seeing more female representation on Team South Africa and along the way on the international stage as well. And I would encourage as many women to study physiotherapy because it's been such a rewarding profession for me. And I get to watch and mentor younger physios in my field, which is what I love doing too. This is my 21st South African cap, and I'm incredibly grateful to have been to have witnessed so many sporting experiences so far. And it's always inspiring. Sport is inspiring. Every time I sing the national anthem, I tear up, and I'm sure a lot of us who've seen the transition in our country probably feel the same way. But if there's one inspiration that I take every time I speak about my career or I'm asked to speak to students is I remember the historic words of our Tata Madiba, who said that sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. And sport has certainly changed my life and inspired my career and all the athletes that I've had the privilege to work with. And I invite you to join me in this sporting journey too. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Sandhya. We couldn't have asked for a better way to end this session. It's so inspiring, and you prove that, just like all our other speakers today, that we as women can do anything and that we shouldn't limit ourselves. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Any questions for Sandhya?
Sandhya, you didn't tell us anything about Chad Leclos. Come. Cheers.
Yes, so I've actually worked with the SA swim team for 10 years, and I've known Chad Leclos since he was 16. So yes, I've worked with him through about, I think, 5 or 6 world champs, and when he's got his gold medals, and it's fantastic. I think as South Africans, we really have athletes that give their all. all the time, and to see Chad succeeding now after being in his career for about 15 years or so is incredible. And a lovely human being to work with too.
Lovely. Thanks.
And an inspiring
Thanks,
physiotherapist working with him.
Thank you.
So thank you so much, everyone, for an amazing session. I think that's the end of our questions, right? Anyone
So
else?
we have questions in the chat. Basham?
Okay.
There was a question for Dr. Ibrahim, if she's still online with us. The question was, were there any challenges you faced as a woman in a male-dominated field?
I think there were many challenges. I think when we started off, there were very few women. And a lot of things, you know, obviously men take for granted, but, you know, women are juggling other responsibilities beyond work. So I think those were quite difficult to navigate. It is getting better as more women have joined surgery. And things like maternity leave, all of those things are now, you know, commonplace. So people are not saying, oh, but she's getting 4 months off and, you know, but yeah, so it's things like that. And there's a lot of like microaggressions that you don't, you know, things like, well, this is not a place for ladies, you know, you should go and do some other specialization, or you know, and you don't really think too much about it, but as you go along, you realize it does impact on how you look at things. But hopefully as more women join the profession and progress, they can serve as positive role models. And that has certainly changed, or the narrative has changed to a degree.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Ibrahim. Yes, there's a lot of gender bias prevalent in South Africa, and thank you for being part of that change. And there's a question perhaps for Sejal, for someone trying to transition into the field of digital marketing and science communication, are there any mentorship platforms or opportunities out there for one to explore?
Hi, so I was actually looking at that question. And to be honest, I'm not sure. It's something that I could look into though at UKZN itself and see what platforms, what opportunities there are, and I could, yeah, maybe let the person know. I'm not sure, to be honest, what platforms there are.
Okay, well, the video will be uploaded onto YouTube. Perhaps you could put a comment on the video in the comment section on YouTube at a later stage. And there's a comment for Tamika. It was powerful motivation for women to join the law profession, Tamika. When one thinks about gender-based violence, I can see how women can impact this positively. And there was a last comment from Salochna Naidu. Thank you to the organizers for a very informative session on career planning. And thank you to all the speakers for sharing your wonderful and inspiring journeys.
Oh, can I just say something? So Salochna, thank you very much for joining. Salochna is also a physio. So it's so great to have you on the call today, Saloch. And I'm sure you recognize Sandhya from our student cohort many years ago. But thank you very much. Salochna is also a brilliant physio. Maybe we can have you next on, Saloch, to inspire young women, because Salochna is in a management position in a public hospital. All right. Oh, okay.
Thanks, Sarila. Yes, most definitely. I will. Wouldn't mind sharing my path as well the next time. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Saloch.
Thank you, everyone. Any other questions, comments? Hi. Any other questions, comments? No?
It's just the poll is on the screen now, if people could fill that in.
Yes, so before you leave, will you please fill out the poll, and that will help us determine how we should improve and how to do things better next time. And while you fill out the poll, I'd like to say, on behalf of the Arya Samaj Women's Forum, we want to express our immense gratitude to our speakers for accepting our invitation to present today. Thank you to Suman, Zakia, Vaishnavi, Sadhna, Sumaya, Sejal, Adila, Tamika, Shruti, and Sandhya for giving us your time this Sunday morning. Hearing about your career path this morning has been incredibly motivating. I would also like to take this opportunity to extend our gratitude to the Arya Samaj administration, Radio Hindvani, and to all of you who shared the invitation. I'd like to acknowledge the contribution of ladies of the Arya Samaj Women's Forum Executive and to our tech assistant, Devya Ramklas, who assisted us today with the technical aspects of the event. And thank you to our wonderful audience for making the time to join us this morning. We wish you all the best as you forge your way along the path. And before you leave this meeting, may I please ask that you complete the webinar evaluation or the poll that's on the screen now. Thank you, everybody, and have a blessed day. Till next time.
Okay, so thank you, Deepika. Thank you very much for putting this together with Shruti as well and Rasha. And to all the presenters, thank you for spending this hour and a bit with us. We really valued your insights, your experience, and it no doubt is going to shift some thoughts in career pathing for many of the girls on this program. And just to say that this will be up on YouTube, so you can direct other people to who may be interested in career pathing to this webinar. And it will be on the Arya Samaj South Africa webpage, Arya Samaj South Africa webpage under the Women's Forum. So please direct people to actually go to that link. So thank you very much, ladies. Thank you for your time. And until we meet again, goodbye and have a blessed week.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thanks, Sorella. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.